interesting question, and we talked about this, Autumn, in the text chain that Alex doesn't have because he doesn't have an iPhone. But
he's not invited.
Now that we have Alex here, Alex, hello, welcome. How long do you think? Let's do it this way. How long before one of us kills each other in a lighthouse, and what is the order of death with us three here? Would you say?
With us three?
I think I'd kill both of you immediately. Just to get it out of the way.
Autumn, I'd grab you by your blue hair and drag your face every step down the stairs on the way.
That's so sweet.
And Paul will be upstairs like, Alex, yeah, we did it. And then I'm like, bye, and push him off. Like,
Alex would have. So I think, honestly, I don't think either one of us, Alex, would like kill Autumn. I think Autumn will have, upon accident, killed herself because she's like, I don't need these two yahoos to do something, and then just drop something on her neck, and we're like, well, less rations we have to split.
I honestly think after 5 minutes, I'd just walk out the front door. I don't think we'd last. I don't think I'd be in the lighthouse long. I'd open the door. You guys would be like, we're so funny, and we know. I'd be like, I'm out of here. Office reference.
It would it would take. I mean, Alex, that intro was terrible. You're like Kevin spilling all those beans.
Can we also talk about how all of our names, we didn't go by any kind of pattern. We all used a different thing to write our names.
First name and initial.
Alex A.
It's called progress, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Happy Thursday, the 2nd of November. Goodness.
Yeah.
That's not right. That can't be right. I don't want to do this whole hack bit,
but like beginning to look a lot like
homicide.
Thanksgiving.
So also homicide.
So much.
A lot of Thanksgiving. So that's fun. Hey everyone, welcome in. Welcome to
Felix.
Hey,
welcome.
Felix. Post collectible sideshow. We were. You can say it. We were. That's where we were. I mean, we're not out there. Yeah, Felix was one of the folks. Thank you again for those of you who did come and hang out after seeing me on Terry's show. I'm siphoning off his audience, so that's great.
Perfect.
That's what one by one for us, and then Autumn, we get closer and closer to being able to sell the show and just sell out.
I don't like siphoning, by the way. Yeah. I don't even like reading about it. Siphoning.
So I'm going to put you down as a no for siphoning. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you get your gas?
Patrick Stewart. I'm now reading his book, and he talks about having to siphon stuff, and I'm like, stop talking about it. Don't
That's
like
such
it. Bathwater. Siphoning bathwater.
What? Are you okay?
I'm not after reading that.
Hey everyone, welcome in.
Hey,
My name is Paul. This is Alex, and longtime friend, first-time host, Autumn. Welcome in, everyone. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great.
Me?
First and foremost, we'll start with you, Autumn. How was your Halloween? What'd you do? Anything interesting?
Oh, nothing at all. All of my kids are now 18. Well, as of tomorrow, all of my kids are 18 and over, and I am superfluous to the holiday now. I am no longer needed to stay up and make costumes and take people places. So did nothing, and it was great.
You can just get candy year round.
Yeah. I can go to the store and get candy whenever I want. So I do. So
full size.
Nothing. Yeah. Anytime.
Nice.
How about yourselves?
Do I have to answer this question?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. It's mandatory.
You're on the show.
Do it.
I went to work, and then went home, and I went and I played, and I went to sleep. That's what I did for Halloween.
Amazing.
Great. Boom. What did you all do for Halloween?
What about
wait, you're not going to chip in? Chip in?
Nothing. I worked.
Just nonstop party.
I was literally typing here, and I had my headphones on because we're in the middle of a really big event at work. And so I'm typing and I'm working, and then someone knocks on my door, and I'm like, what the? Oh, we get one. What do these kids want? So I open the door, and they're like, trick or treat. And I'm like, oh my god, it's Halloween. So I'm just I'm in this cardigan,
gum in your pocket,
walking, just like,
get off my porch.
The hell do they want? But it was fine. One of them was a bumblebee, and the other one was some sort of handyman. So
I love it.
Were they
Love
a
it.
bumblebee? Were they a carpenter bee? Like,
Bumblebee
are you
no,
sure?
a carpenter.
no,
is
it was
a
an actual bee.
handyman bumblebee.
We have an infestation here. It's pretty bad.
That'd be
They're very
cool if
friendly.
the bee was wearing the bee was wearing the
He
handyman
was
thing,
a
'cause
carpenter. Yeah.
it was a carpenter bee. By the way, this is the only Halloween I did. Is I went to Halloween Horror Nights a
Sounds
couple
horrible.
of weeks ago with Krista. It was great.
That's so
it was pretty
fun.
awesome.
Nice.
And
Love
and
it.
it was great because there's all the haunted houses. So this is me actually doing something on Halloween, I guess, adjacent. We're going to the haunted houses.
Pretty close.
She was behind me with her freaking talons in my shoulder, and her husband was behind her. So like, I was like, okay, I'm in charge. So I'm walking, and I'd be like, oh, I see something coming. Okay, I'll say, hey, Crystal, look at that thing. And she'd be like, what's that? And all of a sudden,
dig.
In my cheek. And then her husband would jump, and he'd grab her because he would jump, and then he would jump and grab her, then she would jump. And I'm like, ah! So it was
amazing.
It was painful. And I ate a hot dog.
Regardless. Like, do you like Halloween Horror Nights, like events like that, Alex? Yeah.
I've done it before, but it's expensive. It's super expensive. So like, this was like crazy. Occasional. This was an occasion, so I made it a whole thing, you know. Okay. But it was a lot of fun, and they have like all these themed foods. Sorry that I took it up, but Paul, this is for you. Hot dog. They had this hot dog. Now Krista had done all the TikTok. Yeah, but it was like horror hot dog, and
with ketchup on it.
It's just extra nitrates in there.
No. So there's all these horror themed things, and like one of the things was this hot dog, and Krista did all the research. She's like, "Oh my God, there's that hot dog." I was like, "What hot dog?" She's like, "I don't know. Everyone says it's disgusting." So I went like shot right for the line.
Of course you did.
No, because like, you know, because it's an experience, right? If it's disgusting, it's an experience. And they're like, oh, it's like this blood red hot dog, and there's Kool-Aid pickles, and in a funfetti bun, and all this stuff, right? Yeah. Sounds crazy. Sounds disgusting.
Funfetti bun.
Right. I bit into this, and I was like, this is going to be vile. And I was like, I'm like, it's a hot dog. The funfetti bun.
It's colored odd.
It just looked weird. And the funfetti, there was like a couple of funfetti things. No real flavor. I thought it was going to be a cake with a hot dog, and like the Kool-Aid was really going to. No, because Kool-Aid soaked pickle is just tastes like relish at that point. And I'm like, oh my God. And I brought Krista's husband came, also Alex. Krista's husband comes over, and I'm like, try this. He's like, it's just a hot dog. This is so weird. So then it was redeemed because I went to the Quickie Mart in the Simpsons land, and I grabbed a can of their Duff L'Orange. Like, it's not beer, it's just like, it was disgusting. It was so vile. I drank it. I was like, oh yeah, I can't wait. Oh God. Her husband didn't believe me. He tries it. He's like, oh, this is vile. Then we all made Krista try it. She's like, it can't be that bad. She tries, just vile. I got so mad at this can, I like spiked it into the recycling bin. And the hole for the recycling bin was this big, and the can just bounced.
I don't think
it was disgusting.
I don't think you had a good time, from what I'm hearing.
I've had a fantastic time. I mean, we didn't get back to the hotel till like 3 a.m. We were out all night. But those two experiences, the Duff and that hot dog. The hot dog was disappointed because it wasn't disgusting. It was just a hot dog.
The other one was surprisingly disgusting.
It was so surprising. Shockingly, that was the horror of the night. Oh my God. Okay. I recommend it to everybody.
That won't happen. Okay, second cold open.
That's what you can expect from the show. So welcome in, everyone. Today is our Explorathon show, where we are talking a little bit about what we are watching, reading, and listening to, but we do it with a bit of a twist here. Everything that we are either watching, reading, or listening to is something that either myself and Autumn, our host, our other host, whether it be Mr. Aronowitz here or Daniel, they've also not watched, read, or listened to. This one was a little different because I think I'd seen the movie.
New things.
But we also hope that you guys explore these with us. So this time we were watching The Lighthouse, reading The Yellow Wallpaper, and listening to Electric Light Orchestra's ELO. It's going to be ELO from here on out. We're good with that?
Yep.
Yeah. Jesus. Out of the Blue.
Playing in the background for me.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
Yeah, I know you love it. Big fan. So where do we want to start, Autumn? Because I know we've designated quite a bit of time for each of these.
I do want to say off the top that we have once again accidentally stumbled upon, we accidentally had a theme. It was not on purpose. That I feel like this is the second, maybe the third time, but it's at least the second time where we've discovered a theme when we just randomly paired things together. And this time,
what do you think it is? We have different ideas of what it is, I think.
Well, I feel like the movie and the book were definitely a common theme of, like, the more surface level theme was this insanity theme. One very, very feminine, which is the Yellow Wallpaper, and one extremely masculine, which is the Lighthouse. But they were the same kind of themes of, like, that isolation slowly driving or quickly driving somebody insane, along with some other themes. And then I didn't have that same insanity theme with the ELO Out of the Blue, but there was a common theme that went through the three of them of this isolation. Not in every song in ELO, but there were definitely, especially with the Concerto for a Rainy Day, which we'll get to, there was that some of those same common themes of the storm and the turbulence and coming out the other side. So it was interesting and I want to know if I only found a theme because I was experiencing all of them in a short period of time, or did the theme exist and we stumbled upon it? Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, because you're looking for it. I felt very similar. I felt like there was a lot. I mean, especially with the Lighthouse as well as the Yellow Wallpaper, like gender identity and isolation for me were right up front. And it's funny that the one that we did randomly choose was the one that didn't really necessarily connect, but I mean, we could find tethers between each of those. Isolation, in that if you only talk about how much you love this album like people do online, you will isolate yourself.
You will be isolated.
And I went on
I isolated that album all the way over there.
So you know what? Let's do this. Let's start with the album because we're already here. Alex, I know. Well, sorry. What's everyone's relationship with Electric Light Orchestra, like as a band first?
Yeah.
Am I starting?
What?
I said it's my ex.
It's a live show, so as long as someone talks, we're good.
Alex, go.
Okay. My relationship with ELO is like, it's like that neighbor that you just want to like smash their face in because they like mow the lawn at like 6 a.m. with no shirt on. And you walk out and they're like, "Hey, neighbor," and you just like just die. That's what ELO. That's my relationship with ELO.
That's so specific.
Okay. Various.
Well, she said X. I thought we were giving it a human relationship.
No.
I never liked ELO growing up.
Okay.
It came out in 1977, and I was 5 when it came out. So it was played quite a bit on the radio when I was a young child. So it was just, to me, ELO has just always kind of been there in the background, and I'm familiar with the songs, and it's just always kind of been there. So I never really, I wouldn't call myself a fan, and I wouldn't say I hated it either. It's just kind of some of the music of my childhood.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Mr. Blue Sky. Like, that's what, like,
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy, Mr. Blue Sky. I think it's in 500 Days of Summer as well. I think it might be in that. And so it's one of those songs that's like it's a one-hit wonder in my brain to a band that is definitely not a one-hit wonder. Like, they've been very commercially and critically successful for years. I mean, from 1970 to 1982, they put out 10 albums. 10 full-length albums. That is a lot of music.
And a lot of them were like played on the radio, a lot of radio hits. So it's like I said, it's just always been there. It's the same as like Journey for a lot of people. They just know it because it's been played so much during their childhood. You just know the band. But I thought it was interesting that ELO sounds a lot like ABBA if they wanted to be a little more rock. Like a lot of those same harmonies and a lot of those same rhythms. And interesting. A little more rock. Not rock. Oh, okay. A little more rock. Let me clarify.
And
JJ
by the way,
Joe
I
says,
do like, of course, JJ Joe.
I was going to say previously he said he didn't know who ELO was.
Yeah, like you do.
I don't. Do they not? Is that not like?
I've heard both.
for people
I've
to
heard
call
both.
it?
No, I always heard it as when I was growing up. I heard ELO all the time.
I heard both.
Yeah, but Electric Light
Interesting.
Orchestra also. Yeah. I've
When
heard
you
both.
say ELO, I get mixed up with ELP, which is Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
That's very
And
different.
so it's very, very, very different. But by the way, I do like Mr. Blue Sky because it's just like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a yeah.
Song like I can't hate that song, but like it's just.
It's like Brandy or like one of those other songs from the 70s where it just feels good and you listen to it, but you're not going to be invested in that musician necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Like not to be such a cool hipster, like if I'm going to listen to like progressive type of 70s rock, I'll listen to like King Crimson or something like dark and moody.
So cool.
So cool.
Great.
Where's my cardigan?
So getting back to the album in itself, just a little bit of details on the album. So it's the 7th studio album from the British rock band, obviously Yellow, released on the 24th of October. Oh, so we just like celebrated the whatever anniversary of it.
Oh, happy birthday.
And it includes 17 songs with Mr. Blue Sky, Turn to Stone, and Sweet Talkin' Woman. It had Grammy Award nominations. Out of the Blue was it top charts in like 60 countries. And it is on Time Magazine's top 100 albums of all time. So my thing is like, there's a lot of like there are albums on there that are like the Black Album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. We were just talking about Alex, the Blueprint, Jay-Z's album that's like in the sonographic like time capsule for humanity or something. If you've ever heard of that, like it's like imperative. It's weird for me to think that this album's on the same echelon. Like, do you think it belongs on that album?
Go ahead, Alex. I'll let you go first. I do.
Is this Time Magazine?
Time, yeah.
Adolf Hitler, Man of the Year, 1936, Time Magazine. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same magazine and how much stock we place in Time Magazine.
No, but great does not always mean good. Sometimes it just means infamous, which does not necessarily mean good or bad.
That's true.
I just wanted to be a dick. There's my jerk.
When they had said, like, who's the Time Person of the Year, and they put that stupid tin foil on, and it's like, it's all of you because you survived COVID. It's like, I'm gonna
really.
Once I'm done with this magazine in 24 months, I'm canceling.
I do think it deserves a spot on there because it was very ambitious and it was very. And I do think that was when they really hit their stride the most. I think that's the most ELO has ever been. I do think that they took within their genre, they really took some risks and tried some neat things. And they made, especially when they had that quartet of songs, the Concerto for a Rainy Day, that they tell a story all together. And it hasn't, so like it was very, they really explored what they were known for doing. They really stretched it and explored it. And if you are a fan of their music, I really think this was the pinnacle of that sound, of that type of music. And they really loved their keyboards, man. They were an electric light orchestra. And so
they sure were. And before we get to addressing I want to address and combat some of like the negative sentiment that went into the album. So it was actually pretty well reviewed across the board, except for Rolling Stone magazine.
For Rolling Stone, I was going to say they eviscerated it. Yeah.
Before we get to that, we have a couple people who are in here. So everyone, welcome in to Fandom Social. My name is Paul. We're joined by our guest host and friend and fellow old scurvy dog looking person.
Yeah.
Kind of look like the Lighthouse.
Me.
And Autumn. Sorry, I gave you no preamble.
Autumn is also here.
Welcome in, everyone. There's a couple of new folks here, so welcome. Today we're talking Explorathon, so we go over something we've watched, read, and listened to. Right now, we are going over something that we have listened to, which is Out of the Blue by Electric Light Orchestra. We will refer to them as ELO because I can't say Electric Light Orchestra 100 times. So
clearly.
Okay. So some of the negative sentiment that went into it. The first one is obvious. And that is the length of the album. I was like pulling out my freaking hair my little mustache hairs, I'm just like, just get to Mr. Blue Sky. And then
they never get there.
Start hitting it. I mean, eventually, it's once you get to like Night in the City, which is in song, I was like, oh, okay, like I like this. And then it dips again. Like, what did you think of like the length of the album? Like, are you like, okay, was that commonplace back then to have like 17 song albums?
And no. Like, here's the thing: if you're talking about 1977, and so I think one of the reasons why Rolling Stone hated them so much is because they weren't rock enough to really be into rock, because that rock was the scene. That's what was happening, and serious musicians and like really exploring rock. And they weren't disco enough to be ABBA and be respected for being that type of music. They were this kind of somewhere in between. So they weren't respected by people who were fans of rock musicians. And like I said, they didn't really fit in that category of disco either. So they were hated in a lot of the ways that some of these other, like Journey is very hated by some people because they're rock, but they're this kind of anthemic, separate, softer type of rock that's very melodic.
It's not.
So
they're hated. Not just that, Autumn.
We can go on and on about how much you hate Journey, and they're too commercial, or they're too hooky, or they're too saccharine.
Forget about that. It's they kind of. The reason why the length and everything, and this is, and by the way, this is where the birthplace of punk rock happened, was a direct response to this. No, not specifically to ELO, to music like this.
To this commercial rock and roll.
Because it's kind of like, not just that it's too commercial, it's just like, you're getting away from, it's getting away from you. You're getting away from it. What are you doing? Where are you going with this? You're in outer space. Like,
you're also looking at like the Beatles were doing those kinds of things, and like there were so many bands who were doing these very huge projects, very self-indulgent. And for fans of those musicians, for those bands, it was wonderful because they got to really like let loose. If you are a huge fan of a very specific musician or band, and they go off and make a double album of tons of music, you're gonna love it. Even if you don't love every piece, you're gonna love to watch them explore. But if you're not, it's criticized as being very self-indulgent.
We stumbled upon into it again where we were talking about in our Fandom crossover episodes, which you can find on our YouTube channel. We did that 2 weeks ago, where we were talking about what had happened with like Lil Nas X when he was doing Old Town Road. And how, he wrote this song, he wrote it as a country song to be able to put it on like the hip hop charts and the country charts. They pulled it from the country charts because they're like, it's not country enough. And then he literally just brought on a country artist for a verse. They're like, it's country enough. So there is this level of like exclusivity that comes in with all these genres that I think ELO really knocked against.
More exclusionary. You know what I mean? Like, there's rules in music that people have decided are the rules, and the ones that break the rules in the way that is cool enough are celebrated, and the ones that don't break the rules in a cool enough way are panned.
Yeah, it's also a matter of spirit, which that's the thing, like you'll find a lot, like I said, the birth of punk happened in response to, they're like, you guys are getting away from it. You guys are just like, where are you going with this? What is this? You're so full of yourselves. Like, dude, like I like Mastodon. They started out like almost death metal, and now they're like prog rock. They go all over the place, but I still like them because they still, their core is still there. Where like punk rock is like, you know what? We're just all spirit, all emotion, all energy, all message, and screw the music. We're just gonna have a blast. And like, I like a mixture. I like a place in the middle. Like sometimes I like going off into space and I'll listen to some Pink Floyd. And sometimes I like going off into the hardcore anger. But there's no point where I want to go as far into, like, it's almost like diluted. It just keeps going and spreading and spreading. With the little ripple. When you hit it, that's punk rock. By the time you get out here, I don't feel it anymore. That's just me. And I think that's what happened to music in general at that end of it, because that's when, like I said, that's when everything went nuts, which is my days.
What was that movie with Penny Lane where the kid was the reporter for Rolling Stone following the band around?
Oh,
Almost Famous.
Almost Famous. This is at that time, and I think there was a competition of these rock musicians to go deeper and be the Doors and be Rolling Stone and be the Beatles. And I do think people got carried away a little bit of it, but it was a competition definitely to be the most experiment and all, and the most whatever.
Well, I mean,
bravest.
so this is the cover album. I mean, like even looking at the cover album for the types, like if you go through some of the music that was released in 1977, it's very odd. Sorry, Alex, I just kind of cut you off here, but
It
like
looks like
literally,
Journey.
It's good. They can't see my eyes rolling.
but it looks like Journey. And there was something to be said about them not focusing on the musicians, where a lot of times when you were looking at some of the bands that were around that time, it was the artists themselves. And so there was this level of complexity that they had put into, or even pretentiousness that sort of carried over into the music, which brings into another criticism that, again, we're going to go back to Rolling Stone because they kind of nailed it with at least their supporting evidence. And their complexity the complexity of the album and the instruments was something that they sort of knocked on. And it makes a lot of sense because they were saying, you've got an incredible drummer, you've got incredible musicians playing guitar, and a vocalist, and then you have all of these stringer instruments. Well, when you put them all together, you're not playing any of them at their full capacity. So, you're not playing a string quartet because it can't be louder than the guitar, but the guitar can't do what it wants to do because it can't be louder than the strings. So their complexity and because you have so much, you have nothing. It's just a little mushy. On some songs it was noise. And then when you look at the album, like towards the end, like The Whale, Birmingham Blues, Wild West Heroes, at that point I was just like, no, like I was done. At that point I was cut out.
The Whale, I was like, I'm done. I skip it.
Yeah, that was hard.
But I still really had appreciation for what they did. I still really have appreciation for the creativity and see you guys fit right in. Doesn't that look like Jimmy Fallon in the middle? Go back.
Jimmy Fallon. Go to the next picture. Go to the next picture again. That's definitely Jimmy Fallon. Go to the next picture. And Hugh McDowell looks like a skinny Jack Black.
He does.
Ooh, he kind of does.
Yeah.
He does. So this is one of their concert recordings, and then that was their Out of the Blue concert tour where they had done a pretty ambitious at the time. It's like a spaceship sort of emulating this.
Yeah. I mean, I think I still, while I couldn't listen to all of it, I did skip some tracks. I really did I absolutely appreciated the creativity and what they were trying to do and what they were aspiring to. And I feel like sometimes they did hit it. Like the idea of them, and it was like Bohemian Rhapsody was kind of part of that with Queen, of like, let's do something, let's tell a story, let's go operatic, and so they did this thing. They paired 4 songs that they called Concerto for a Rainy Day. They put them on album number 2, the first side. They put these 4 songs on that told a story together that were inspired by him in a Rainstorm, the main songwriter, Standing in the Rain, Big Wheels, Summer and Lightning, and Mr. Blue Sky. And it's an allegory for at the end of a relationship. The first song, he's thrust out into a storm and he feels isolated and he's terrorized and he's kind of discombobulated. And then the next one, Big Wheels, is about him kind of churning, being powerless and going through this thing that's bigger than him. So it can be the storm. And then Summer and Lightning is kind of like the clearing away of all this. And Mr. Blue Sky is that joy and freedom and being clean again and coming back. And coming back to life. And what a great, I felt that was really ambitious. And while you may not appreciate it, you may not love the music, I personally appreciated the artistry that they were really trying to push themselves and do something different and interesting.
So you give them respect.
Yeah,
I give them respect. I wouldn't listen to this again. I wouldn't spend time listening to the whole album again, but I definitely appreciated it. I did skip a couple, but I still appreciated the whole as a piece of art.
Yeah. That's very aptly put. There's the same. I appreciated it. I understand after listening to it, reading why it's on Time's top 100 albums, because there was so much. It brought in so much influence. It has influenced so much, and it is just something that people obviously are still talking about today.
Yeah, and they used all the settings on their keyboard, all the new sounds. They used them all.
Yeah.
And that was exciting.
Yeah, they definitely went the route at Baskin Robbins. They're like, what toppings would you want?
All
of them.
All of them.
What flavors do you want?
Yeah.
Give me one of everything with everything on it. That's what they did.
I think we should switch over to the watch and read because we're gonna run out of time, and I think there's a lot to talk about there.
It's my fault.
Yes,
The Halloween story.
we are actually literally right. If you look at our outline, we are right on time.
Boom.
Right on time. Okay, so let's move over to you. Where are you feeling on? Do you want to do the Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman next?
Yeah, I kind of feel like we're gonna touch a little bit on one and then the other, and then we'll end up talking about them both. But yeah, Yellow Wallpaper. Let's do that one. It's short. This is it, guys.
Let's do Yellow Wallpaper.
Didn't do the homework. It was extremely short, and
even I read
30. It's 37 pages long. Somewhere. And the first 3 pages are nonsense. So, I mean, it's very, very fast to read.
Yeah. And before we get into what we thought about it, on the surface level, let's give you guys a little bit of plot details. So throughout the short story, The Yellow Wallpaper, author Charlotte Perkins Gilman explores her own experience with postpartum depression and breast cure treatment. Written as a woman's secret diary while locked away in a room, The Yellow Wallpaper explores the negative attitude towards women and the stigma surrounding mental health. It was published in New England Magazine, in 1892.
Ooh.
Is when this was published.
Go Pats.
You're an idiot. Go Pats, huh?
Go Pats.
Brady. Yeah, this is not on Tom Brady's bookshelf, I'll tell you that. So this, I think once I had read Autumn that it was like in 1892, I really appreciated the book a lot more because this book in and of its own
this took
self
some ovaries.
Kind of this took some real ovaries. It was a bit of a death sentence for Charlotte Perkins Gilman. So Autumn, what did you think? I'm sure you also maybe read some analysis and then looked into it after. But when you were reading it, what were you thinking?
Yeah, my first thought was okay, this is postpartum depression, and seeing how infantilizing the husband was and her brother was, and seeing how condescending and how controlling and dismissive of what was happening with her and where that led her. Man, it started to get my blood boiling because while I myself have not suffered from postpartum depression, I've known so many women who have, and it still happens now. Not to the degree of this, but doctors still say, oh, just get some fresh air. And I've known women who couldn't stand being around their babies and hated themselves so much for feeling that way and never got any kind of validation or treatment or understanding or support. It was just you've had your baby and you're supposed to be joyful, go get it. And so the fact that as a female, the fact that the themes in here and the way that she was treated are not gone yet is still, it resonated with me as a mother, as a woman. And my job a long time ago was photographing newborns. So I worked with moms. I worked with brand new moms for 15 years. I saw men treat their wives this way. I saw women go through this. I saw it with my own eyes, and it's infuriating and heartbreaking. So for me, before I even read anything, I thought, yeah, this tracks. And there was no other resources. There's no social media to go tap into. There's no therapist to go talk to. If you really are feeling that kind of depression and you're being controlled and isolated as much as she was, psychosis is the next step. It would probably be freeing. It would probably be a relief to give into it.
And, it's so interesting. I think, going into this, I'm like, I wanted to be sure, even just reading it, I knew even what the topic of the book was. And even then, I still was not picking up on the analogies and some of the metaphors that Charlotte Perkins Gilman is putting in here based on postpartum depression, because there's just a disconnect.
And she only barely mentions that there's a baby. But that's the whole point. When you're in postpartum depression, you feel disconnected from your baby and self-hatred because of it.
It was interesting. I mean, we can sort of get into also maybe some spoiler territory for this book. If you guys haven't read it, it's 37 pages. But
spoiler for page 33.
For page 33. So there's a set of characters that are in this book. It's really just 3. You got the husband, John, that Autumn was mentioning earlier, who sort of is a little bit demeaning towards her, belittles her. You use the word infantilizing. It's a good way of putting it. You have the maid, who's actually John's sister. And then you have the narrator, which we think her name is Jane, but you don't really get like a clear-cut case for it. And all of these characters being pulled directly from her life. You know, Charlotte Perkins Gilman was married to her husband. It doesn't say. Oh, Charles Stutzman was divorced.
I just have so many things to say. I'm trying not to.
No. But she divorced her husband very shortly after writing this book, after sort of having this like aha moment when reading it, being like, oh, this is what's happened to me. It was really important for me when I was reading this to not be like, I understand everything about postpartum depression now, because it's so funny on first glance, Autumn, and I'm curious, like, if you picked on it immediately, but when I was reading it, I was like, it's weird. She's still like, it sounds like she's so in love with her husband still, that he's being so nice to her. Like, that's the read that I got from it the first time.
Yeah.
But it's interesting when I kind of like go back and I read a little bit of those pages again, I was like, oh no, because you have to remember, everyone, when you read this, she's writing a journal and she's not supposed to be writing. The rest cure, they've told her no writing, no interacting with people. You don't want to be too excited. So she's secretly writing in this journal. And in my head, after I had those initial thoughts and I went back and read it, I was like, oh, I wonder if she's writing these relatively nice things about him just in case he sees
it. Well, also because there's that part of postpartum depression that you are distanced from your feelings about your baby, that you are guilty about that you don't understand it, that you then it's all directed back inward to yourself and what's wrong with you. And so you are automatically, you feel like a burden. And so you're going to automatically feel like, I have to be so grateful to my husband who is so patient with what a horrible human being I am right now. So like, he's such a saint for putting up with me, that kind of thing. And the main thing that like really fired me up about this is the, once again, proof about how the patriarchy hurts everyone. This man is a physician who really is trying to help his wife, but because he was raised in the patriarchy just as much as she was, he has lost his wife. He's lost her. He had this wife who had a new baby, and he's a successful doctor. It's like he should have had a really great life as well, but because of the patriarchy, he is taught that she is less than, that she is childlike, that she is not to be listened to or believed or held up in any way. And so he treats her like a child because that's the patriarchy. And now he has lost his wife. And so like, he's not really the villain. He is just as much a victim of the societal norms of this is how you treat your wife. And this is what it ended up getting him. So once again, Barbie movie, patriarchy hurts us all.
Where's my Blu-ray? I just got it on Blu-ray.
Are you are you happy, Margot Robbie? We've read this. We've read this book. But yeah, it was an interesting case, and I think, you know, one of the main themes of this being, you know, again, isolation is very on the surface. She was literally isolated. But is this idea of gender identity that is built into this book? It is the binding of this book. And again, something to remember, it was written in 1892. A book that is still being taught in women's studies courses all across the country, except Florida probably.
Like high school classes, they still, like my kids had read it. One of my kids, when they saw this, they're like, are you taking a high school English class? What are you doing? Because they had read this for their class. So, and it's just such an important book because it does this great thing that great horror stories, like, you know, not to compare or minimize it, but like something like Get Out had done, right? Like, it brought these social issues to the front through the gateway of horror and like through prose. And that's what this book did. Dwayne says, sadly, we have not advanced much, if any. You know what? I agree and disagree. I think the fact that we can openly talk about this on a show is a sign of advancement. Like, this is not something that would be acknowledged as something to even talk about, even as much as 20 years ago.
Yeah, but it's still a problem.
It's still a problem. But now we are allowed to examine it and honor it as a real thing.
After we've already not, and again, you know me, like I'm always like, I want everything to be sunshine and everything to be great. Like it doesn't, I know that sounds off brand for me, but I want it to be, but I don't see it. because my problem is I only see the bad part where like I see people going through postpartum depression and their mothers, their sisters, their friends, people on TV telling them that this is not normal. I love my baby. And like you talked about how she goes that jump from postpartum depression to psychosis. Like some people don't even make the jump. Some people go right there. You know what I mean? Like and it's really, you know, it's where like, you know, even like Paul, I mean, Autumn, I don't know. Are you watching The Changeling? So I know Paul has mentioned it because I follow him on social media and he's such a cool guy. But in that, there's a lot of that in there where like women have said like, I'm looking at my baby and they're talking to me and saying evil things and like whispering. And like, this is the thing with fairy stories.
I'm watching this right now. Oh, okay. I love it. It's so good so far. Anyway.
If you think about like not just in this show, in ancient fairy stories, when you look into England and Ireland, although the fairy stories, there's always this thing that like my baby's not mine, it was replaced with a fairy. That is, you know, it's not my baby, it's a fairy, it's a monster, it's a demon, it's whispering things into my like that's what it is. And like shit like that. So, man, I'm cursing a lot. It happens a lot still, and it's very upsetting. It's very, very upsetting.
Well, I do think the difference is, while some people may be in an unfortunate situation where they have friends and family and a doctor that won't listen, we are in the age of, for better or for worse, the internet. And there absolutely, for the better, are plenty of places for women to go to find a commonality and to help them find support. Like it is available at the touch of their fingers. If they can have the fortitude to go look for it. And sometimes it's hard to get there, but it's available. And it did not used to be available at all. Complete isolation was your curse, unfortunately, and now we have progressed.
Which is like I said, it's like me reframing it as something positive, where I'm just like, oh my god, you know, reframe.
We are on the journey to the right way.
Yes,
and that gives me hope.
And so and again in this book, it's an interesting allegory and direct one-to-one metaphor for what Charlotte Perkins Gilman, again, for those of you, I was throwing up some pictures while they were talking just so you guys had something to look at too, but this is Charlotte Perkins Gilman. That's her. She's written quite a few
Ovaries of Steel.
On a lot of people.
Yeah.
What did she say? Ovaries of Steel.
Yeah.
Is that her superhero name? The Steel Ovary?
100%.
That would be her wrestling name.
Yes.
So she made her living teaching and sort of progressing feminism through lectures, through books. That's how she was able to fund. She didn't write that much fiction. She wrote The Yellow Wallpaper and a series of other short stories. There was a movie made on The Yellow Wallpaper, which I didn't know existed, but it's very similar. But this wallpaper is like one-to-one. Let's see. Do you have your book?
Yeah.
Let's see your book. So it's a little different here, but apparently the wallpaper that we see here is like a one-to-one from Charlotte Perkins Gilman's old drawings of what she was envisioning. Like that's as close. And but it was a really small batch, small release movie. But then so again, sort of moving through the book, she starts getting a little bit the psychosis increases with her, and it culminates in her thinking that this wallpaper is moving, and there is this woman trapped in the wallpaper who at first she's scared of, but then she's like, no, I've got to get her out of there.
And then she slowly becomes her.
And then she slowly becomes her. And again, everyone, 1892 when this was written, it has, I don't know how you read it, Autumn, but I laughed at the ending. I thought it was so clever and so funny. And Alex, I'm going to spoil it for you, and for everyone else out there, because we gave you guys a month, but it ends with the woman, it ends with her getting this rope, or it's like chains, and she's like, I'm going to bind the woman in the wallpaper. It ends up being her. She's binding herself as she's doing all of this. And then she's free. And then as in the last couple sentences, she's just like, thank you, Jane. So then you switch perspectives immediately. And her husband opens the door and he faints. And she says, like, what does he have to faint for? And then the book ends.
Yeah, and she
Like,
she crouches over his body as she
Yeah.
leaves. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's like crawling.
Yeah.
And she's like, as she looks
Yeah.
over, she's like, "What does he have to faint for?"
So
Like,
she
I
has
just thought it was
freed the
so
woman in the
funny.
wallpaper. Or she's freed herself. It's amazing. Yeah. So
Well,
she's
and
lost
that
her
could be
mind.
a metaphor for her divorcing Charles, her first husband.
100%.
You know,
Yeah.
she's out of the wallpaper, and she's out of just being
Oh,
wallpaper.
feel
She's
that.
no longer decoration. Yeah, I was gonna
Mhm.
say, like,
And also the other thing is once you've crossed that line, you no longer, I get my one, right? Because you guys both said one. You no longer have any fucks to give. And once you cross that line, you can never put it back in the box.
No.
And then you get this.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah.
I'm my best life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every once in a while,
100%.
we might need to put you back in the wallpaper
Good
so we can
luck.
get work done, and then you're free. But
That hurts.
but we need you,
my friend.
we need you to do some writing, and then you're
Yeah.
back.
We need to jump onto Lighthouse so that we don't.
Yeah. So that is the Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Again, it's 37 pages, everyone. You can find it pretty much anywhere. I think it's because Autumn had mentioned it's sort of a piece of American literature now.
Yeah.
You can find it pretty much.
The Awakening.
You can find,
Yeah.
you can find the PDF pretty much anywhere. Now, something that is not as easily accessible, but it's something that I have. I'm glad we culminated into this. It is the Lighthouse.
This rough watch, I tell you.
There you go. It is a Robert Eggers film. Who has directed The Witch. He's also done. Oh my! I just lost. What was the other movie?
Let's make each other like them.
Here, let's move Autumn in the middle.
Oh, yeah. You're not wrong. I'm just the Lighthouse. That's who.
How do I get my face?
Wait, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Wait, get back up. Back up, Alex.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. You guys are so. Wait, this is Steve Nara sums it up perfectly. Hold on to your sanity, Spider Monkey.
Oh yeah.
This is a film that I have a very special relationship with. I love this movie. I'm going to say it right. I think this was something that I'd already seen twice before we'd even started Fandom Social.
Can I tell you what Robert Pattinson's description of the movie was? It's very quick. He said, it's a couple of hours of me going, oi, 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 and him going, grr, grr, grr.
Grr, 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 grr. That's a great description.
Robert Eggers, who is the director of this, they had asked him multiple times because all of the art house trailers, right? They're so like, they don't give you anything. And they asked him, like, what is this movie about? He's like, well, this movie's about finding out what happens when you trap two men in a big penis.
100%.
Hundo
P. About the patriarchy and how it hurts us all, but that's okay.
Absolutely, which we will get into. So again,
sorry.
Please listen, everyone. It's a movie that received critical acclaim. It's like a very atmospheric movie. It's a very, like, when we say art house, we mean it. Like, it is it is a film that has no there's no consensus on the ending, which I tend to find frustrating. However, I have my very specific direction of how I think this ended. So that's why I love this film so much. But Autumn, since this is your first time watching this, what did you think of it? Like, just kind of going through it.
I was struck by two things immediately. The visual, which was the ratio, the aspect ratio of it. Yeah, the giant penis. The aspect ratio of it was very claustrophobic.
Watch it on an iPad.
4:3. And so it's meant to feel claustrophobic, and it's black and white. But if you notice, there are very few blacks and very few whites. It is almost all gray. If you watch it again, you don't see white and you don't see a lot of black. It's extremely gray. And you'll also notice there's constant noise happening. It's meant to feel loud and disruptive and claustrophobic. There's always a storm and something crashing, and it's just very loud and off-putting. And so it's meant to make you feel uncomfortable. So I think it puts you into the mind space of these two characters.
Sounds like my dating profile. Loud and uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. It was definitely very steeped in Greek mythology. If you want to believe that to be the case, there's a case to be made for that. Which I don't believe the director has confirmed that, but I have seen.
No,
it's definitely seems very. This is a Greek mythology thing, and it's definitely got so much homoeroticism in it, and it's definitely got so much. Just some homoeroticism, suppressed homoeroticism for sure.
That's your nickname.
Yeah, that's me, suppressed homoeroticism. Yeah, so that was the character I played. Yeah, so it was rough for me to watch in the same way that this book, I was in that groove immediately, and I think it's because it's definitely feminine energy, the feminine experience, the whole feminine point of view. This was extremely masculine, and it didn't. It was a real rough watch for me. It was off-putting. It was disgusting. It was, and I mean it like I felt disgust. Like I was watching it just like, and it was just
you're too
visceral.
close to everything.
Yeah.
At any given moment, you're too close to everything. It's very claustrophobic. And if you notice,
I will never ever watch it again. I hated it. But I thought they were both amazing. I thought they both ate it up. They ripped up the screen like they did.
Yeah.
So do you like it? Like, were you like, this is a good film, but I just won't watch it again? Or you like, you did not enjoy the movie?
It's the experience of it was like Leanne Dolman, where I appreciated it, but I will never watch it again. But I 100% appreciated the artistry of all the cinematographer and the director and the actors and I appreciated all of it, and I will never ever watch it again.
Yeah, I'm with Autumn on this because I saw it in the theaters. I was like, I rushed to it because I'm like, you know me, I love The Witch, right? Like, that's a movie I've watched like 40 times, which is strange, but
it's a great film.
I watched it and I also felt deeply uncomfortable. I laughed at a lot of it, which I did enjoy. I picked up on all the metaphors. I picked up on all the mythology. I picked up on everything. I was like, wow, what great, everything's really great. But at the same time, I was like, oh my God, this noise. Like, oh my God. And I did love how part of it looked like an old film. Like, not because it was black and white, but like an old film, like the quality of those seagulls was not exactly like real seagull-y, like it was like watching an old movie that was made in like the 60s, but it was pure also horror. It was just it got into my head. Why'd you spill your beans? I love that. I could say that. Why'd you spill your beans? I
just playing in the back. Oh God,
God, over and over again. And then of course, for people who didn't watch it, don't want to have some spoilers, but like all the ambiguity in the beginning and not understanding what all the secrets are, and like I just want the secrets to come out, and like I want to know what's going on, and then the mermaid and seagull. Oh God, a lot of it was like foofa. Like it's hard to describe too much without getting into like the real nitty gritty of breaking down the plot and the story and everything like that. But yeah, it did make me feel so that I have not watched it. I actually was like, I could watch it again when a little early today. I was like, yeah, I'll watch it again. I put it on. I was like, no.
I think
the machines.
Oh God, it's horrible.
Just constantly running and there's constantly noise. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to pass it over to you for sure, Paul, but I am going to say just the most impactful scene for me was they're drunkenly having yet another drunken evening together, and they're talking, they're singing, and then they are like holding each other, and it's incredibly intimate, and then they look at each other and they almost kiss, and then they start fighting, and all of it was this equal degree of intimacy. Like the level of intimacy did not change. They just kept shifting what it was to try to grapple with how to be intimate with this other person when they're so isolated. And like, to me, that was the most impactful scene of the film for me, just because it was such a portrayal of, the patriarchy and how they couldn't survive this together because they are not allowed to be emotionally vulnerable with each other and get through this thing and support each other, they cannot, they're not allowed. And so this is what one of the things that happened. I think that's one of the very small themes. There's many other things, but that's one of the things was it is not allowed to be vulnerable and support each other. This is the only thing that's allowed, is these other forms of being intimate.
And it's kind of the way, like, me and my friend Marco, once we were in a bar together and MMA was on TV and all these dudes were like watching the MMA, and me and him were watching it, and we're both like, this is so erotic. Like, this is
Just
like, yeah, it's like they're just and like we're both watching it, and like we're both and like we're like, they just look like they're rolling around on the ground and like hugging each other and like getting really and then they get into a fight and then they're hugging each other again.
It's
I'm like,
violent intimacy.
It's violent.
The only way, unfortunately, that some men can
are allowed to have that physical context. And okay, Paul, take it away. You've got feelings and thoughts, I know.
3 times
already, I liked it.
Right?
No,
the end.
I liked it.
Thanks, everyone.
End show.
It's cool. No, it's again, sort of tethering back to what we were talking about with the Yellow Wallpaper, of this idea of like isolation. Again, right up front, that's like the entry theme that is in both of them. I mean, they're obviously on a lighthouse. Robert Pattinson's character has chosen to isolate himself and is running from something. Inadvertently, and Willem Dafoe's character has chosen to isolate himself perpetually, and is essentially, anytime he has to leave this lighthouse is when he's uncomfortable, and that is his form of isolation. But then, I mean, the biggest thing to this, I mean, obviously is gender identity again, and like these are 2 men, Alex, like you were mentioning, like the UFC, like I feel like they would be very uncomfortable watching UFC fights, like that they do not represent what I felt was the typical version of masculinity in this film. And so when you sort of put them in scenarios where they can be more of themselves and they can be, more, for lack of a better word, that normative for their version of heterosexuality, it ends up being with them dancing and singing. And you're right, Autumn, like at some moments, right, because we're conditioned, we're like, oh, this is definitely like sexually charged. And then other times it's like, are they just lonely? Like,
they're craving that validation, support, and intimacy to get them through this, and they can't get it from each other. They're not allowed.
Right.
And they definitely view the other person very differently. Robert Pattinson's character, I think, views Willem Dafoe's character as a speed bump to wherever he's going next in his life. And Willem Dafoe's character views him as a warm body, as like the next warm body.
The dog.
As you sort of see throughout the film, the only intimate relationship that we really see is Willem Dafoe with the Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Like he has he feels he has a relationship with it, to an object, which is like this version of masculinity, patriarchy, where it's like objectification is patriarchy, is objectification is essentially what is the end goal of traditional patriarchy, right? It's like this traditional housewife, like it's an object.
And ownership, ownership of that object, and control.
And so that's why Willem Dafoe views this lighthouse as his wife, because he owns it, and they can't argue back with him, which to him is a perfect relationship. But it doesn't, I was having
and authority too.
Is like there's not a through line, like where like all of the normative patriarchal themes that we think of, like big fighting men are not like the ones who want ownership. Like it's not always 1-to-1. So like I don't think Willem Dafoe's character is like a fighter. You know what I mean? He's not like the UFC bro, but he's still sort of shoveling coal into the furnace of patriarchy with his view on this lighthouse. He treats the whole island and how he treats Robert Pattinson. And again, it just being, it's an interesting film that I think like I've only picked it up because I've seen it so many times. And upon first watch, you're like, okay, that was weird and definitely a little gay. And you're like, got it.
Just a little
bit. And
and he also, like when he smashes up the boat saying, "Don't leave me, you can't leave me." And it was just, it was a little interesting. It was interesting. I'm glad I watched it.
So,
but I'm done now.
do you want to know what I think happened in the movie, or do we want to not
totally.
spoil it for people? I mean, it's been out for a while.
Yeah, and we also gave the homework a month ago.
Yeah,
we did. So
spoil it for them.
And all Explorathons are always spoilers. Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's a point in the film where Robert Pattinson's character is painting, and Willem Dafoe's character drops him. He falls, and as soon as he falls, the next cut is him upstairs, and he's waking up. I think he either was crippled or he died there. And so the very last scene of the film that we see, where the birds are picking apart Robert Pattinson's character, you can interpret it how you want, but he's covered in white. Yeah. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's seagull poop." I think he died. He left him there. Willem Dafoe,
or he left him there to die.
To die. And he ate his rations, because then you start seeing, literally once that scene happens, if you were to go back and just kind of watch it, that's really when the descent starts happening with Robert Pattinson's character.
Well, all those things are hallucinations in his pain and in his dying. Those are his hallucinations and psychosis.
And so he's in this form of purgatory. The birds are representative of like various versions of Dante's Inferno, where they are where like harpies are picking at the I can't remember the name of the sin, one of the sins, like adultery maybe, where they're picking at him. So there's a lot of parallels to lead you to believe that it's like purgatory he's in, and that was his final judgment. Was he died because he ended up killing these seagulls and he didn't learn. That's what I think happened in this movie.
One potential ending is that, this is an allegory, and that the Willem Dafoe character is a god, and that he is the human. He's like Prometheus, and that he was forbidden from attaining these powers of the god, and that he rebels by killing the god and going up into the tower, and then immediately being killed in a pretty torturous, horrible way was his punishment for his audacity to go and try to take the power of the god.
Because isn't that how he was killed anyways? Isn't how Prometheus was killed too? Right?
Yeah, like being cut apart. So I think if you just look at it as just a Greek mythology allegory, that's just what it was. It was a retelling of this story. But I think they both work.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a super interesting film that like people are still obviously still talking about either now. I mean, 2019, so it's pretty relative. It's relatively new, but it's a great film. Robert Eggers does movies like this. Again, if you have not, I don't suppose Autumn will be watching it, but if you do want some like good old fashioned horror that's a little closer to, I don't know, how would you put it out? It's a little closer to what Satanism, what Satanism is like intended to be, where it's like there's this like these levels of like witchcraft. That people usually, I feel, misinterpret Satanism as like the devil, but it was originally at this point in time also New England. He has a fascination for that time period where it's like,
are we talking about the witch?
The witch, yes. Sorry.
Oh, I was like, what the hell? Where are you going? A New England folktale. Yes,
where it's like it's closer to where the modern version of Satanism has like gone from, but it's not like super scary, but it's very super unsettling movie.
I just got to put it out there for everybody who's watching, like Satanism, and this is from a person who's wearing a pentagram shirt, like Satanism was like never a real like thing, the way that people make it think that it was like ever this real thing in any like spooky sort of way. It's an atheistic, antagonistically atheist religion. That's really all.
Antagonistic is the right way to put it.
It's a punk rock version. It's wearing a Boston Red Sox hat in New York during Yankees playoffs, like during Yankees won whatever. And it's that version of atheism. That's all it is. Okay, it's an attack.
You couldn't even finish the sports metaphor.
I can't. It's a sports metaphor. How am I going to go? Yankees playoffs? I don't know. Is that a thing?
That's good.
Do they have their own playoffs?
The World Cup of the
World Cup. It's like wearing a Red Sox hat during Yankees games. But like you said, Paul, continue what you're saying because I just had to put that in there because you're like Satanism has moved away from this what? It was never a thing.
yeah, and then again, someone's bringing up maybe between me and Alex, like we could talk about Satanism and the Church of Satan and how they're just very different, and we won't do that on the show. But everyone, that's Explorathon. That's everything we have watched, read, or listened to. We do have a show. Well, before we let everyone go, thank you for watching. If you would, if you're here for the first time, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. There we go. Daniel usually does all this, and now I've become like, comment, subscribe, and join our Facebook group, Fandom Socialites. We have a website, which is
I updated it today.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I updated it.
Oh, I sound like an asshole.
I know.
FandomSocial.com. It is a good way to sort of keep up with us. You can find all of our channels, like in case you ever just miss anything that we're doing here, just go to FandomSocial.com, the easiest way to find it. There we are on Twitter/X, Instagram, YouTube. That's where you are now. So pretty easy to find. LinkedIn for the business shouties. And you can always email us in your cooking recipes, your thoughts on mine and Alex's facial hair, Autumn's next color of her hair.
It'll always
email it in it. Always will. Hello at fandomsocial.com.
Fun fact, I celebrated 8 years of blue hair this month.
Congrats.
I had a couple of breaks here and there. Anyway, we
That's
do
a
need
whole
to
presidency.
I know, 2 of them.
2 terms.
I do want to talk about our next show. You know what? I think that let's go ahead and post in the group later what our assignment for the next Explorathon is going to be.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We'll save it. Yeah, we'll post it. We'll post it later on this weekend.
Yeah, so we'll post it later this weekend on what the next Explorathon homework will be. It's about a month from today, so it looks like the 30th right now. But as always, subject to change.
Yes.
But Autumn, do you want to talk about our next show? Because we have another creator interview, another creator segment. And these are guys that are close to you.
Yes. So for our next creator series, I know that we had Paul interviewed the guy from Miguel from Toy Quest 101. And along that same series, which is a passion project of mine, is interviewing people who are creating their own podcast or their own live stream, or they're really just pursuing this passion of theirs. And we know firsthand how much work it is, and you guys see how much work it is and how much we don't do, because doing this while you're trying to work full time, have family or friend responsibilities is tricky. So I'm really fascinated by the people who make that work and keep coming in week after week to make content. So we are going to be interviewing 2 guys who have a podcast that I listen to, and I work with them at my current job right now. The podcast is called Bald Guys and Bad Movies. It is Troy Luter and Michael Stella, who are amazing at what they do, working on creating amazing videos for Nexon, where I work. But they've got this podcast where they watch movies and break them down and talk about them. And they watch bad movies, but sometimes good movies too. And I've listened to many, many episodes. I believe they're on episode 66 at this point. And they put out an episode every single week. And it's called Bald Guys and Bad Movies. I highly recommend you guys check them out. They are on, we did just drop the link in the chats there, but they are on Apple Podcasts. Check them out. We're going to interview them next week and learn a little bit more about what they do and what made them inspired to do this and what keeps them going.
So excited.
So I'm very, very excited. They're very funny guys. They're really, really insightful and just a lot of fun. So I think you guys are going to like them. But in the meantime, please go check out their podcast. It's really, really fun listen.
And for those of us that don't have Apple, on Spotify as well.
They are on Spotify.
Oh, great. Yep, Spotify as well. Bald Guys and Bad Movies. Check them out.
Bald Guys.
Yeah, you guys, honestly, you really will love them.
Yeah, I've listened
to
episode
57.
Yeah.
Is Critters. They're doing Critters came out.
Critters.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, they've done some really great ones. I am trying to convince them to do the pirate movie, and I want to be a guest on their podcast and talk about it with them.
Where's Paul going? I really just want them to do the Insane Clown Posse movie known as Big Money Hustlers. But that's just me.
I'm sure
I'm reading a book right now by the AV Code.
Oh,
My Year of Flops, which is literally all about some of the worst movies, and it's like one of those like how did they get made?
Yeah.
But it's on like commercial and critical flops. So I've been
So
practicing for a bit. I'm so excited to talk with them.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I am very, very excited. They've done some really, really great, really great shows. So great movies. Knock at the Cabin, I watched that because of them. They did Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Yeah, they've done a lot of great ones. So anyway, we're going to be interviewing them next Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So you guys got to join us.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies.
Some are not bad. Some are not bad movies.
Which we will talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did they covered The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is not a bad movie. It's a great one.
Nope.
So like I can't wait to get to that episode.
They did Beau is Afraid, which I'm curious to talk about with them. I don't know if anyone here has seen it. That movie could very easily be interpreted as a horrible movie. Like
and one of them I thought was fantastic was there was one of them, Michael, who did a review with his son, who I want to say was maybe 10 or 11, and they covered Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And his son was delightful. So yeah, anyway, you guys check it out. We're going to interview them next week, same time.
I'm looking through the movies that they did.
Yeah. So everyone, that'll be on the 9th. That'll be November 9th. We'll be live with Bald Guys and Bad Movies, 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. Again, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We'll drop the link so you guys can hit the notification bell to be reminded about that show. We'll drop it in the group. It'll be on our YouTube. You can just bookmark Fandom Social. We have it set up now.
Up here again.
Just wait here.
Yeah, wait right here
until next week, please. But Alex, thank you for joining us, by the way, and thank you for doing 1/3 of the homework.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, listen, I'm always glad to provide the balance of extreme negativity and misery to the fun and joy that the other two bring. Because sometimes it's like you need a break with all the candy. You have to drink some terrible Duff's L'Orange to wash it down.
And that is exactly what I think of when I think of you. Yes.
Autumn, please go to Universal City Walk because you have Universal Studios Hollywood. Please go there and go to the Quickie Mart and try it or whatever it is.
Pay money. You want me to drive, pay for parking, walk the whole thing, pay to get in, then walk in, go stand in line, pay more money to get something that I know for a fact is terrible. Yeah?
No, I mean, if you are going to go to a place anyways, please put on your list, I have to taste this really terrible thing because it's an experience. I guarantee you it's vile. And this is someone who drank Mountain Dew, major watermelon religiously. So it is vile. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Okay.
I interrupted you again.
I
did it again.
Okay.
I'm going to break.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining Fandom Social for another Explorathon. We'll see you guys next Thursday, 6 p.m. Western, Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all so much. Have a great, fun, safe weekend. We'll see you guys in the group very shortly, I'm sure. And as always, remember, like what you love what you like, and check on your local lighthouse keeper. They're probably not doing okay. So, bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.